Kexers, we are back for chapter 4 of The Wind in the Willows. It is called Mr. Badger, and there's Mr. Badger. At last they heard the sound of slow, shuffling footsteps approaching the door from the inside. There was a noise of a bolt being shot back. The door opened, and there was Mr. Badger. "Oh, Badger, let us in, please," cried Rat. "We've lost our way in the snow." "Come on into the kitchen," said Badger kindly. "There's a fire there and supper." Badger sat the two of them down by the fireside and told them to take off their wet coats and boots. Then he fetched them dressing gowns and slippers and put some sticking plaster on the cut on Mole's leg. And as he started laying the table for a lovely supper, both Rat and Mole felt they were miles away from the wild wood outside. After supper, they all sat round the fire and talked about Toad's troubles with his new love of driving fast cars until it was time for bed. Then Mr. Badger took Rat and Mole up to the spare bedroom in the loft where there were 2 beds surrounded by all his winter stores. So winter stores mean all the food that he's collected to eat during the winter when he cannot go out or when nothing's growing, right, because of the snow. Do you think, you may not recognize it, but this is a leg of a pig. It's ham. It's a dried ham, like prosciutto or jamon. Do you think that's something a badger should be eating? Or would be eating? When they came down to breakfast very late next morning, Rat and Mole found 2 young hedgehogs eating porridge out of the wooden bowls. They also had been lost in the snow. And hardly had they all sat down together when there was a clanging of the doorbell, a stamping of feet in the hall, and in rushed Otter. "They've all been so worried about you on the riverbank," he cried. Oops, sorry for the shadow. Otter has a scarf. Soon after breakfast, Mr. Badger sent the 2 hedgehogs off home and suggested the others should stay to lunch. Notice how they said stay to lunch instead of stay for lunch. This book was written in England, and the language it was originally or first written in was English. But you'll notice that the English they speak in England and the English we speak here, American English, instead of British English, there's differences, right? Mole told him how much he liked living underground. "When lunch is over," agreed Mr. Badger, "I'll take you round this place of mine." So you get a tour. And true to his promise, he lit a lantern and showed Mole all over his house, through narrow passages, long corridors, vaults, and storerooms. When they got back to the kitchen again, they found that Rat was very restless. "Come on, Mole," he said anxiously. "We must get off. We don't want another night in the wild wood." "I'll be all right. It'll be all right," said Otter. "I'm coming with you." So they all said goodbye to Mr. Badger, and Otter led them safely home. And that's the end of chapter 4.